hello, and welcome. I am your host of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Author Karen E. Osborne. I have five novels out. The latest is Justice for Emerson. I am so glad that you're here. This is a space for readers and writers to come together and talk about books. So today I get to introduce you to Wayne Turmel. Hey, Wayne.
Hey, lady, how are you?
I am great. And I hope you guys are prepared for a fun interview because he is a fun guy. So,
Not in the mushroom sense, but
oh, I saw what you did there. I saw what
you
you
didn't
did
see
there.
that?
Very, yep, very, very clever.
My
So,
mother would call that two-thirds of a pun, PU.
oh, people, we're in for a really good time. Here we go. Like me, you are a genre switching writer. Tell us a little bit about your writing journey.
Um, I believe the police term is checkered past. Um, I grew up in a small town in British Columbia, and in just after graduation in '79, I actually started doing stand-up, which led me to Toronto, which led me to Los Angeles. I was going to be a big star. I was writing for my act, obviously, but I was also trying to get scripts written and one thing or another. And then the wife and child insisted on eating. And that was the end of that. So I ran away from the circus and got a big boy job in training and development and found myself writing articles and then contributing chapters in books and then writing books under my own name. And I still continue to do that. So there's the big boy grown up business consulting side of me. And I always felt, though, even though I was several books in, I'd never be a real writer until I tackled a novel. And so 10 years ago, I wrote my first novel, which is Count of the Sahara, which is historical fiction. And since then, I am three historical fiction, then the werewolf detective trilogy, and now I'm back to historical fiction with my new book, The Deserter. So just banging it out, trying desperately to cling to whatever's left of my sanity and my artistic being.
I find I love switching genres because I love learning new things and trying new things. So I wrote family
Well,
drama and I wrote murder mystery and I
yeah,
wrote historical fiction. To admit, though, I do like killing people. What do you think that's
there
about?
is there is something to be said for it.
Yes.
I try not to delve too deeply. I tend to create characters who have all the skills and abilities to be successful, but can't stay out of their own way. If I had a therapist, I'm sure she'd tell me why that is. But um, we do what we do. It's funny. The challenge is for somebody who's as mildly ADD as I am, changing genres and stuff works for the way my brain works. But if you look at the Venn diagram of people who read business books and read historical fiction and read werewolf urban fantasy, that is a slightly small sliver of humanity. So while it's a lot of fun to write, it's kind of difficult from a marketing, creating a brand standpoint.
It is. It is. That's the thing that I've run into too. And people say, "Well, Karen, why don't you just stick with one genre?" Because I bore myself. I can't get bored. I have to keep
I
going and
made
doing.
Yeah, I made the very mercenary decision to do the Werewolf PI trilogy, specifically because it was a trilogy, specifically because it was in a hot kind of genre. And while I loved it, 3 books is it. I'm seriesed out. I am only to,
Mm.
as far as my plans are, I am only doing standalone stories from now on.
Until until something happens, you don't know. This crazy,
Until
you know,
something happens.
your muse might lead you someplace else. So we are excited that today is publication day for The Deserter.
Yes, it is.
Just so, so cool. So tell us the premise, the setting. Give us a little flavor for what The
You
Deserter is.
you bet. When I was writing it, this kind of description came into my head that it's Beau Jest if it was directed by Sam Peckinpah. And what I mean by that is it's set in the French Foreign Legion, which is a wonderful uh, kind of venue for action, right? It's in the Algerian Sahara, and there's good guys and bad guys, and there's action, and the Legion, of course, is famous for taking people with mysterious pasts and giving them a shot at redemption. And so, in this particular case, my hero Gil was a soldier in Queen Victoria's army in the Boer War, had some less than great experiences, and so mustered out, spent several years in the deep, dark criminal underbelly of Marseille, and has to get out fast. And so, in an effort to regain some order in his life, he feels himself spinning out of control. So, in order to regain some order, he joins the Legion, and so in January of 1908 is sent to basic training at Sidi Bel Abbès, as they all are, and finds himself in the Moroccan desert fighting the Battle of Manaba and some other things that actually happened, and things go badly south for him.
Hmm.
Um, Torturing my main
No,
character is something I take great delight in.
we have to. It's so, we have to just keep throwing things at them and throwing things at them and throwing things at them, right? Otherwise, the reader isn't interested. So we just make their lives so hard. So
Exactly right.
tell me what you love about Gil. What do you love about him as a human being?
Again, Gil is interesting because I didn't start out writing him this way, but I realized that, it's 1908. The terms weren't even invented then, but he's OCD. He has very, very strict ways that things need to be done. And of course, in the madness of war and the chaos of the desert, things don't go that way. And so his frustration at all I want, I don't want to be an officer. I don't want to do anything. Just let me march, let me shoot at the bad guys, he gets assigned to the Mule Corps, so he's in charge of the animals. Uh, just let me do my job and do my thing, and I'll be fine. And it doesn't quite work that way. So Gil is unlike anybody else that I've read. For one thing, this is the first novel I've done that isn't in first person.
Mm.
And if you read the book, you'll understand quickly why. Um, but I usually write in first person. I'm very much a method actor, right? It's like if I'm going to do the dialogue and make it sound natural, and there's a lot of me in all my characters, maybe because I've distanced myself from Gil. He's
Mm.
less me than a lot of my other characters. Um, but
Hmm.
again, we were kind of talking before the tape ran. Tape. How old am I? Before we started recording, um, it's very frustrating to see somebody try and try and try and just not quite get what he's going for.
Mm.
And I empathize with that. I am not much like Gil in almost any way, but boy, can I empathize with that one.
That. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this was a very interesting time in history, right? You mentioned that. And so when you were digging, when you were researching and putting pieces together to make Gil's life as difficult as possible. Did you find anything really interesting or
Oh,
surprising or horrific or funny
well,
in your research?
you know yourself from having done this, and I'm sure this happened to you on Emerson. The research is so much fun, and you go so deep down the rabbit hole that the problem for a historical fiction writer is not just cramming in everything that you learn. And for me, the Legion is fascinating. The legend is far bigger than the actual reality of it. If most of us and Americans, I was shocked when I took it into my writing group how few Americans in my writers group even knew anything about the Legion or had seen anything about it. Getting your colonies to rise up and shoot you will put a dent in the legend, I'm sure. But
Mm-mm.
what happened is it was such a great time, but it was 1908, right? The telephone hadn't really been invented. There was no airplanes. There was no air travel. They traveled by mule, and I went way down the mule rabbit hole, like things that I never expected to know about mules. I can tell you. Um, and so it's just those types of things. And there was some research. There's a wonderful book by a guy named Porch called The French Foreign Legion, which I'm not kidding is this big. And it's a beginning to 1970s compendium of Legion history. And there were so many fascinating things, battles and ways the Legion got their butt kicked in ways you can't believe, but they just kept going.
Mm. It was
It's
probably
like
the
if we think
mule's fault. Was it
it's
because of
not the
the
mule's
mules?
fault. The mules were great. This was one of the things, this running jokes is they give the officers horses, but horses in the desert are largely useless. Mules can go longer without water, carrier heavier things, and their feet are different. So their feet can, without being shod, their feet can grip and balance better on stony and sandy ground than horses.
Hmm.
But of course, the officers have to have big, manly horses. So
Interesting.
the mule research got deep.
Yeah. And how did you, I'm just very curious, how did you decide to put your protagonist in charge of the mules? I mean, it's probably not everybody would even know that. And
No,
how did
it's
you come up with that?
I'm fine to geek out with this. Um, I needed I got fascinated by the mule corps as I was doing my research. The mule corps kind of kept calling to me. And
Hmm.
because Gil is fairly antisocial, he keeps to himself, he doesn't work and play well with others necessarily. As much as he tries to maintain a distance, and he feels very insulted because in the British Army he had worked with horses. And so he felt this was really coming down in the world to deal with these ugly, stupid beasts. Um, but he starts to connect with them in a way that he's not connecting to people.
Hmm.
And it made a really nice way of softening him because Gil's kind of a jerk.
Hmm.
His OCD, you know, anything's out of place, it just flips him out. And so the notion of having something that he cares about,
Yeah.
and that also in several instances, he finds, for example, that he can't tolerate anybody abusing an animal. So if somebody isn't treating their mule well, they're on Gil's list.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Animals often, I notice that people give bad guys often a pet just so they have some human,
some human, yeah, some
something that makes them,
humanizing.
Yes, a
thing.
decent
See,
human
he can't
being
be entirely an evil person if he has a cat.
has
Now,
a
any cat owner will tell you that is no guarantee that you are not an evil person. It could be the cat is using you for those evil purposes.
could be, absolutely, absolutely. So when you were doing all your writing, it did something over the course of the books, over the
Mhm.
course of your writing, even your back in your professional writing, did you uncover something about yourself that surprised you, that you learned something new about yourself because you were writing?
Yeah, I don't know that it was new. It just became blindingly obvious,
Mm,
which is, as I say, I have a weakness for characters who have talent and brains and don't always utilize them to their best, or people who, and this one is mostly like me, people who believe they are at least as smart and talented as successful people, but never quite achieve that.
hmm
And so, some of it is green eyed envy, some of it is frustration, some of it is whatever, but it's a theme that runs through the people. And, you know, especially with the Johnny Lycan series, but also with Acra's Bastard and Acra's Orphans, this notion that sometimes you can do everything and still stuff goes wrong.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. Do
Which
you have
is
a
more my father than me. If I'm honest, that's my father's story. Hustle, work hard, do everything, and just miss the brass ring by that
can't
much.
quite make it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a copy of your book handy so
Do
everyone
I
could
have a copy
see?
of my book handy?
Yes. Isn't that a nice cover, everybody? Okay.
It is a lovely cover. It's done by
Wait.
a friend of mine. I know the camera is doing
Okay.
weird
Now
things.
you've got it. Perfect.
A
Thank
friend
you.
of mine who is in my writers group, Ruth
Mhm.
Zakarian. Look her up. She will do good work for you. Um, just took my ideas and created this really lovely.
It really
And
is.
the picture goes all the way around front and back. Come on,
You have to put it in front of your face for us to see it. Yeah,
there you
here we
go.
go.
Front and back. The picture goes all the way around, which
Yeah,
is really cool.
it
I'm very,
is.
very pleased with the way that turned out.
Yeah, yeah, I like it a lot. So this is what are you reading? What are you writing? And was there an author or a book that had a really big impact on you as a writer? Help shape you in some way or
Yeah,
inspire you?
I I have told people in the past that I am the illegitimate offspring of Alexander Dumas and Hunter S. Thompson. Uh, that I grew up reading, and this is the day before there was YA, which is
Mhm.
a whole category that can really get my old man blood pressure going. Um, but the Three Musketeers, Count of Monte Cristo, Treasure Island, um, those types of books that were big, meaty novels written
Mhm.
for adults, but I loved them and they gave me that sense of adventure that's never left me. I mean, my favorite movie is still Errol Flynn's Robin Hood. My wife laughs because if it's ever on TCM, I'm there.
You're
And
there.
I literally cannot tell you how many times I've seen it. But that kind of swashbuckling adventure thing has always appealed to me. And then, as a young man, I got corrupted by Hunter S. Thompson, who has this very cynical, um, screw authority kind of thing that was a total eye opener to a nice church going boy in British Columbia who says, you can't talk to adults that way. And it turns out you can. So that's what kind
Yeah.
of corrupted me. Um, and I've been a voracious reader my entire life. My mother read Harlequin romances mostly to the point where she had an ongoing account at the local used bookstore. She would bring a grocery bag full of books and leave with a grocery bag full of books. My father read spy thrillers, a lot of
Hmm.
we bonded over Robert Ludlum and that kind of thing.
Yes, yes.
So
Ken Follett. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I read voraciously and still do. I, I,
yeah,
I, the term I like to use is I'm literarily promiscuous. And by that I mean I will read almost anything. And there's a difference. Like sometimes you want real literature, and I'm happy to talk about the
mhm.
authors that I love there. And then sometimes you just want jelly beans. You don't want a meal, you just want jelly beans. And that's where urban fantasy and sword and sorcery and all that foolishness stems from.
Yeah, yeah. I think having I don't know, I would call it promiscuous, but I do your meaning. And I like to read every kind of book. And in my writing group, I'm writing with people who I probably wouldn't have picked up their book because the
That,
genre is so different. But now I'm hooked and loving it. And yeah, it's
well,
so
that
good to
is so
try.
important. When you People that go to a writers group that specializes in a genre or whatever, in some ways it can help, right? If you're a romance writer, you can give feedback that other romance writers can use. I love my group here in Las Vegas, which is just the motliest collection of humans, um, ranging from I've never written anything before to I've written tons of books and all genres. But what I find is it makes you better. Like
I think
for
so.
me, historical fiction, the strength is in the world building, and most of the really good comments I get is how I make the world. So I stole that from sci-fi writers
Right.
who spend
Right.
so much time world building,
World
right?
building.
If you've got
Exactly.
orcs and castles and all that stuff, people have to feel it. Well,
Yeah.
history works the same way. The more you can get the sounds and the smells and all of that stuff to create that world. And most of the feedback that I've gotten on the Deserters so far is that I kind of nailed it. I,
Awesome. That is awesome. That is
well,
awesome.
having said that, now the poor reviews will flow in, and I will look like an idiot.
No, you won't because your book, every book isn't for everybody. And just because somebody doesn't like it doesn't mean it isn't slamming. You have to keep that in
This is
mind,
true.
right? So I don't want us to run out of time. Is there a book that you have read recently that you could recommend to our audience?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend a writer, not just a
Mhm.
book, but a writer. When I was getting ready to write Count of the Sahara, and I had never tackled anything before, and I didn't want it to stink, Esquire magazine had a list of 75 books that every man should read. And I had read a fair number of them. I had read almost half, but I plowed my way through the entire list. And one of the great nuggets that I found in there, because it's like any list, some is wonderful and some I wouldn't read with your eyes. I mean, I just didn't care for it. But Mark Helprin, who, if you don't know his work, does literary writing that is so beautiful. I was reading Paris in the Present Tense in an airport waiting to board a plane, and the book opens with a guy in an airport waiting to board a plane, and the writing was so lovely and evocative that I almost quit right then and there. I went, I cannot do that what he does. I wish I loved anything, including my wife and child, the way he loves New York City. To hear him write
Hmm.
about New York and all those things. So,
I have to
the
read this
one
man.
thing,
Say his name again.
Mark Helprin, Helprin, the book people will have heard of is A Winter's Tale, which
Yes.
was a terrible movie with Colin Farrell. I love Colin Farrell. I'm a big fan, but the movie was horrible. But
Mm.
that book is, and it's a big monster. is one of the most just beautiful, beautiful passages and fantasy and characters. It's just wonderful. So that one, Paris in the present tense, and probably Soldier of the Great War are my favorite books of his.
Favorite
But
books.
politically, we could not be more different. But it doesn't matter because I don't have
Beautiful
to talk to
writing
the guy. I
is
just got to read
beautiful
his.
writing, right? Well, this has been so fun. Guys, all of you watching, or if you're listening on Spotify or on whenever, however you listen to your podcast, please know that you can purchase The Deserter everywhere where you buy books, or you can borrow it at the library. We love it when you buy them, but borrowing it from the library because libraries are awesome.
And
Independent
even if you don't plan
bookstores,
to read it at the library, tell the library you want it because if enough people ask, the library will buy it.
they will. They absolutely will. So please do that. But now tell us, Wayne, besides all the places that they can purchase or borrow your book, how
Sure.
else can they be in touch with you, follow you?
Yeah, my website is wayneturmel.com. That is just my fiction work, has nothing to do with the day job or the grown-up stuff that I do. But wayneturmel.com, I interview other writers and talk about my work, and you can always reach me through that. I am also spending a lot of time these days on Blue Sky,
Mhm.
author Wayne Turmel. Feel free to connect. I love, and it would be nice to hear from real people instead of AI bots, which is what I hear from
Right?
all day long.
I know the scammers, but that would take us another 15 minutes, and we don't
Oh,
have that.
we don't.
So,
So find me on Blue Sky and Facebook, Wayne Turmel or Wayne Turmel author. Uh, and I love to connect. And if you read any of my stuff and have an opinion, let me know. And most
when
importantly, leave a review. We can't
absolutely,
we can't
reviews are
say this
gold.
enough.
We appreciate them so much. We thank you all for watching or listening. And I hope when you get in touch with Wayne, and you will, tell him that you met him on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I'll see you all next week. Bye bye, everybody.